The Forbidden Discovery. The Velcrin survey ship Pathseeker drifted through the outer edges of Sector 447, a region of space that most starfaring civilizations had learned to avoid without ever being told why. Junior Science Officer KL adjusted his sensory stalks as he studied the readings on his console, his bioluminescent skin flickering with confusion. "Commander Thora, these energy patterns make no sense," KL announced, his voice carrying the melodic tones typical of his species. "The gravitational distortions suggest massive infrastructure, but there's nothing on any of our star charts. It's as if someone erased an entire sector from galactic records." Commander Thora, a veteran explorer whose silver carapace bore the scars of 4 decades in deep space, moved to his station with deliberate steps. Her compound eyes absorbed the data streaming across the holographic display. What she saw made her mandibles click nervously, a gesture she hadn't made since her first year in the fleet. "How far does this anomaly extend?" she asked, though part of her already feared the answer. "At least 200 light-years in every direction," KL replied, his excitement overriding his caution. "Commander, this could be the discovery of a lifetime. An entire, hidden sector, possibly containing ancient technology or lost civilizations. The recognition alone would get us all killed," Thora interrupted, her voice sharp. "There are reasons why certain regions of space remain unexplored, Officer KL. Reasons that wise civilizations don't question." But KL was young, barely 30 cycles into his career, and he possessed that dangerous combination of brilliance and ambition that had driven explorers since the dawn of space travel. "With respect, Commander, our mission parameters include investigating unexplained phenomena. If there's even a chance of significant discovery, we're obligated to at least conduct preliminary scans." Thora's antenna twitched with indecision. The young officer was technically correct. The Velcrin Exploration Authority had commissioned them specifically to map uncharted regions and investigate anomalies. Besides, they would simply conduct long-range scans from a safe distance. What harm could that cause? She would spend the rest of her life regretting that thought. "Very well," Thora conceded, "but we maintain a distance of at least 5 million kilometers from the anomaly's edge. At the first sign of danger, we retreat immediately. Understood?" "Understood, Commander," KL responded, already programming the scanning array. The Velcrin Pathseeker moved closer to the sector's border, its advanced sensors probing the darkness ahead. What they found defied every principle of known physics. The entire region was encased in a web of quantum barriers, each layer more sophisticated than anything the Velcrin had ever encountered. The energy requirements alone would have drained the entire power output of a small star. "This isn't a natural phenomenon," announced Lieutenant Vess from the tactical station, her scales rippling with unease. "This is a cage. Someone built a prison around this entire sector of space." "A prison for what?" KL wondered aloud, his scientific curiosity now tinged with growing dread. The answer came in the form of ancient data packets, buried within the quantum barriers themselves. As the Velcrin scanners penetrated the outer layers, they triggered dormant warning beacons that had been silent for 5,000 years. The ship's translation algorithm struggled with the archaic languages, but eventually, fragments of meaning emerged. "Warning, Quarantine Zone Alpha 9. Human Containment Sector. Approach forbidden by Galactic Decree 347. Violation carries sentence of immediate termination." The bridge fell silent. Even KL's enthusiasm died as the weight of those words settled over the crew. "Humans," Thora whispered, her voice barely audible. "That's impossible. Humans are a myth, a cautionary tale told to young cadets about the dangers of unchecked aggression." "Myths don't require quantum prisons," Lieutenant Vess observed. "My commander, I recommend we withdraw immediately and report our findings to Galactic Command." But it was already too late. The Velcrin Pathseeker's advanced sensor array, designed to penetrate cosmic dust and radiation, had done its job too well. The quantum barriers, maintained for millennia by automated systems, had been designed to repel physical intrusion, not sophisticated sensor sweeps. The ship's scans had created microscopic harmonic resonances in the barrier structure, resonances that were now cascading through the entire network. "Commander, the barrier is destabilizing," Kale shouted, his earlier excitement replaced by pure terror. Thora's training took over, pushing aside her fear. "Full reverse! Get us away from here now!" The Velcrin Pathseeker's engines screamed as they fought against the gravitational eddies created by the collapsing barrier. Across hundreds of light-years, ancient warning systems activated, sending emergency signals to every major civilization in the galaxy. The seals were breaking. The prison was opening. The humans were waking up. Inside the quarantine zone, Captain Marcus Webb stood on the bridge of the Defiant Dawn, humanity's flagship, and watched the barrier collapse on his displays. At 247 years old, thanks to the life extension technology humans had perfected during their long exile, Marcus was one of the few people alive who remembered the taste of freedom. He had been a child when the Galactic Council had sealed them away, and he had spent his entire adult life preparing for this moment. "Barrier integrity at 40% and falling," reported his first officer, Commander Sarah Okonkwo. "Multiple breach points opening across all sectors. Sir, we're actually getting out." Marcus allowed himself a thin smile. "All ships, this is Webb. Execute Protocol Exodus. It's time to remind the galaxy what they tried to forget." Across the quarantine zone, thousands of human vessels powered up systems that had been maintained in readiness for 5,000 years. They were ships born from desperation and refined by necessity, incorporating technologies that the wider galaxy had never imagined because they had never needed to. When your entire species is imprisoned, you learn to be creative with limited resources. The Velcrin scanners detected them first, small contacts at the edge of detection range, then dozens, then hundreds, then thousands. They emerged from the dying barrier like ghosts materializing from fog, their hulls bearing the marks of a civilization that had turned isolation into innovation. "Commander, I'm detecting at least 10,000 vessels of varying sizes," Kale reported, his voice shaking. "Their technology, I can't even classify half of what I'm seeing. Energy signatures that shouldn't be possible, weapon systems that violate 3 different laws of physics, and their stealth capabilities. Commander, they've been watching us this entire time. They saw us coming long before we detected them." The communications array crackled to life, and a human voice spoke in perfect galactic standard, though the accent was archaic, an echo from an age the galaxy had tried to forget. "Velcrin Vessel Pathseeker, this is Captain Marcus Webb of the human ship Defiant Dawn. I want to thank you for what you've done today. You've given us something we've been denied for 5,000 years. A chance." Thora found her voice, though it cracked with fear. "Captain Webb, I am Commander Thora of the Velcrin Exploration Authority. The barrier breach was accidental. We meant no harm. Please, we can seal the barrier again if—" "Seal it again?" Marcus's laugh was cold and bitter. "Commander, do you have any idea what it's like to be locked in a cage for 5,000 years? To watch generation after generation born into prison for crimes they never committed?" "No, Commander Thora. There will be no sealing this barrier again." "The Galactic Council will respond," Thora warned, trying to sound authoritative despite her terror. They will panic. They will scramble to mobilize forces that haven't fought a real war in 3,000 years. They will argue and debate and form committees while we do what we've spent 5,000 years preparing to do." "And what is that?" Thora asked, dreading the answer. Marcus's voice softened slightly, taking on a tone that was somehow more frightening than anger. "We're going home, Commander. Back to Earth. Back to the worlds we built before they took it all away. And if the galaxy tries to stop us, they're going to learn exactly why they locked us up instead of wiping us out." The transmission ended, leaving the bridge of the Pathseeker in stunned silence. Around them, the human fleet began to move, thousands of ships arranging themselves into formations that spoke of military precision and long practice. They weren't raiders or refugees. They were an invasion force that had been waiting 5,000 years for this moment. "Get a message to Galactic Command," Thora ordered, her voice hollow. "Tell them the humans are free. Tell them we're the ones who let them out. And tell them She paused, watching the human fleet prepare to reclaim their place in the galaxy. Tell them to prepare for war. As the Pathseeker retreated at maximum speed, its sensors recorded everything. The galaxy would need to know what was coming. They would need to understand that the myths are real, that the monsters are awake, and that the price of 5,000 years of imprisonment was about to be paid in full. Behind them, Marcus Webb stood alone in his ready room, looking at an image that had been preserved for 5,000 years. It showed a blue-green world, beautiful and vibrant, orbiting a yellow star. Earth. Home. The world they had been torn from as punishment for being too dangerous, too aggressive, too unwilling to bow to galactic authority. "We're coming home," he whispered to the image, "and heaven help anyone who tries to stop us." The war for humanity's... The price of freedom. The Galactic Council's emergency session convened within hours of receiving the Pathseeker's transmission, but the chamber that usually echoed with measured debate now churned with barely controlled chaos. Representatives from 89 civilizations filled the vast assembly hall, their voices creating a discordant symphony of fear and accusation. High Chancellor Vornis, a Thalen whose crystalline body refracted the chamber's lights into nervous patterns, struggled to maintain order. His voice, amplified through the chamber's acoustic systems, cut through the noise. "Silence! We must approach this crisis with clear minds and united purpose." He waited until the chamber quieted before continuing. 5,000 years ago, our predecessors made a choice. They sealed away humanity rather than wage a war that would have devastated the galaxy. Today, that seal has been broken. "By incompetent Velcrin explorers," shouted Ambassador Kress, his reptilian features twisted with rage. "They should be executed for this catastrophe." Commander Thora, standing in the witness circle at the chamber's center, kept her head high despite the weight of thousands of hostile eyes upon her. "We followed standard exploration protocols. There was nothing in our records, nothing in our training that warned us about that sector. Your predecessors buried the truth so deep that even their warnings were forgotten." "She's right," acknowledged elder mathematician Zix, one of the council members old enough to remember the stories firsthand. His ancient voice crackled through his translator. "We chose to forget humanity existed. We erased them from our star charts, our histories, our collective memory. We told ourselves that if we never spoke their name, they would cease to be real. Our fear made us foolish." "Then remind us, Elder Zix," commanded Vornis. "Tell this council why our ancestors imprisoned an entire species. What made humans so dangerous that extermination seemed like the kinder option?" Zix's tentacles trembled as he accessed memories 5 millennia old. "Humans didn't start wars with other species. They ended them. When the Kreldainian threatened to enslave half the galaxy, humanity intervened. When the Plague of Shadows consumed entire worlds, human scientists found the cure. When the Void Collective began their campaign of extinction, human warriors stopped them." "That doesn't sound dangerous," interjected a young delegate. "It sounds heroic." "That's what we thought too, at first," Zix continued, his voice heavy with ancient regret. "But humans never asked for permission, never sought approval from the council. They simply decided what was right and enforced their will upon the galaxy. When we tried to establish diplomatic protocols, they ignored them. When we demanded they respect our authority, they laughed. They were not conquerors seeking to rule us, but something far more terrifying. They were guardians who had appointed themselves without our consent." The chamber fell silent as the implications sank in. Fear of tyranny was easier to fight than fear of benevolent force that refused to be controlled. The final incident occurred on Talaris 6th. A civil war between two factions threatened to go nuclear. The council voted to allow the conflict to resolve naturally, as per our non-interference protocols. Humanity disagreed. A single human vessel, the Peacemaker, entered Talaris space and disabled every weapon on both sides within 6 hours. They ended a war we had chosen to allow to exist. That's when the Council realized humanity would never bow to galactic authority, would never accept that some problems should remain unsolved. So we made a choice: remove them entirely. And now they're back, Vornis stated grimly. Fleet Command, what are our defensive capabilities? Admiral Krenthis, a veteran warrior from the Dorvan Imperium, projected tactical displays throughout the chamber. Our combined forces number approximately 50,000 warships. However, our intelligence on human capabilities is 5,000 years outdated. Initial scans suggest they have between 10,000 and 15,000 vessels, but their technology has evolved in unexpected directions. Unexpected how? Vornis demanded. They've weaponized quantum entanglement in ways we don't understand. Their ships can communicate instantaneously across any distance. They've developed shield technology that adapts in real time to incoming fire. And most disturbingly, they appear to have solved the consciousness transfer problem. Their ship captains can't be killed in the traditional sense because their minds can be backed up and restored. They turned their prison into a laboratory, someone whispered. 5,000 years to innovate without outside interference. The chamber's massive view screens activated, showing the human fleet's progression through formerly quarantined space. They moved with purpose and precision, reclaiming outposts and stations that had been abandoned when humanity was sealed away. But they weren't attacking. They were reclaiming, systematically taking back territories that had once been theirs. They're heading towards Earth, observed tactical analyst Mira, her voice tight with tension. The planet was quarantined along with them, left as a monument to what we'd done. If they reach it... The transmission came suddenly, interrupting her analysis. Captain Marcus Webb's image filled every screen in the chamber, his human features strange and unsettling to species that had never seen his kind. Honorable members of the Galactic Council, Marcus began, his tone formal but edged with steel. I am Captain Marcus Webb, speaking on behalf of the United Human Coalition. We are aware of your emergency session and your military preparations. We know you're debating whether to attack us, contain us, or attempt to negotiate. Let me simplify your decision. He paused, and another image appeared beside him. It showed Earth, beautiful and blue, exactly as it had been before the quarantine. 5,000 years ago, you took our home world from us. You scattered our colonies, imprisoned our people, and told yourselves it was necessary. You believed that locking us away would solve your problem, that we would eventually fade from memory and cease to matter. But you made a critical error in your calculations. You gave us time. Time to think, time to build, time to become something more than we were. Every generation born in that prison knew exactly why they were there. We told our children the story of how the galaxy feared us so much that they couldn't risk our existence. We taught them that fear is a weapon, and you had armed us with the most powerful version of it. The council members shifted uncomfortably as Marcus's words struck home. Now you're mobilizing your fleets, preparing for the war you think is coming. But here's what you don't understand. We don't want war. We never did. We wanted to help, to contribute, to be part of something greater than ourselves. That desire hasn't changed in 5 millennia. Then what do you want? Vornis asked, his voice carrying across the transmission. Marcus smiled, and it wasn't a cruel expression, but rather one of profound sadness. We want what every species wants, Chancellor. We want to go home. We want Earth restored to us. We want the freedom to exist without your permission. And we want you to understand that the humans you imprisoned are not the humans who stand before you now. A new set of images flooded the Council's displays. Human cities built inside asteroids, massive agricultural stations producing food with impossible efficiency, medical facilities where diseases that plagued other species had been cured, educational institutions that had preserved not just human knowledge, but the wisdom of every species that had ever shared space with them. During our exile, we didn't just survive. We built a civilization based on everything we learned from you. We took the best aspects of every species we had ever encountered and incorporated them into our culture. We became what you always feared we might be, a species that had transcended the need for galactic approval. We studied the Velcrin philosophy of harmonious exploration. We adopted the Thalen principles of crystalline mathematics. We mastered the Dwarven warrior codes. We learned from all of you, even while you tried to forget we existed, and now we're ready to share what we've learned. The tactical displays showed the human fleet changing formation, moving from an aggressive wedge into a defensive sphere. They weren't advancing towards Earth anymore. They were simply waiting. "Here's our offer," Marcus stated clearly. "Lift the quarantine on Earth and our former territories. Allow us to return home. Grant us representation on the Galactic Council as equals, not subjects. In return, we share everything we have developed during our exile. Medical technology that could extend the lifespan of every species in the galaxy. Agricultural methods that could end starvation on 1,000 worlds. Defense systems that don't require weapons, only the ability to make conflict pointless." "And if we refuse?" Vornis asked quietly. Marcus's expression hardened. "Then you'll discover exactly why your ancestors chose imprisonment over extermination. We've had 5,000 years to prepare for this moment, Chancellor. 5,000 years to study